McDonough. I am the owner of McDonough Law, and we are in 4 states, and I'm here to tell you today how I designed my life and my law practice around our family adventures. This is not a traditional presentation because I don't have a traditional life. So I assume that you are here because you want to know how I've designed this very non-traditional life, very mobile, and a lot of fun. So you're going to get to see some of the photos of our travels and adventures, our fifth wheel that we travel in, our big RV. But I'm going to tell you the story of how I designed this life and how you can too, because it's not impossible. It's very doable with the technology and all the tools we have at our disposal to create the life we've always wanted to have. So that's what I did. Law is not my first career. My first career was I started a piano studio when I was 15 years old in high school. I taught music for 15 years, and in that I also ran and operated several other small businesses. I got the entrepreneurial bug back in high school. I started a swimming program with our local community center and our country club. I love business and I love helping people. So I think it naturally fit that later on in life I would find my way eventually to law. I ended up going to law school with 3 kids, ages 3, 5, and 7. I went to the University of Wyoming. I lived in Colorado at the time. And when I went to law school, I decided I wanted to design a life very intentionally that I had the freedom and the flexibility to spend time with my family, to enjoy that time, not feel like I've got to be a slave to the billable hour, and have as many adventures as I can. My philosophy was, I've only got my kids once. Once they go to college, they don't want to hang out with mom anymore. So I wanted to maximize every opportunity I could. So I had this crazy idea that we would get an RV and we would travel all over the country. My husband was not a fan. So after I won my first case in Wyoming, I came home, practiced in both Colorado and Wyoming, so I travel a lot back and forth. And I came home from that case and I said, honey, meet me at the RV store. We're buying an RV. So that was it. That was early 2013. We took our first trip to Yellowstone, spent 2 weeks up there around Yellowstone and Jackson Hole, and I loved every second of it. I started planning more trips and more trips and more trips till eventually we were traveling 4 to 6 months out of every year. And it was phenomenal. The first month-long trip we took, I told my family, all right, I have this dream of spending winter on a beach. It snows a lot in Colorado, and I get cold. I don't want to be in the snow and the cold. I want to be on the beach. So I set up a trip, a month-long trip. We started in Gulf Shores, Alabama, and worked our way all the way down to the Keys. And we island hopped all along the way, and we stayed at state park campgrounds. That was the most fun trip. My family did not want to go. They didn't want to leave behind their friends and all the activities for a whole month. But the most amazing thing happened on that trip. We weren't on our phones. We weren't on our iPads or our gaming devices. We were laughing and playing together and having fun. We were out kayaking and paddleboarding, and we were mountain biking. And we had this amazing connection. The kids were having fun together and interacting together. It was so wonderful that I started planning longer trips and longer trips. Last year, we spent 3 months in the Keys because it's the warmest place that I can get to in the country and still be able to get to an airport pretty quick in case I need to fly back. So it's fun, it's adventurous, but let me tell you a little bit about the logistics of how we make that work. So when I first started our law firm, I decided that I knew everything had to be virtual. Everything needed to be set up so that I could work completely remote. I didn't want to have to be reliant on an office, on staff. I needed to be completely free. So I started researching every tool we could find. So I signed on with Clio in 2012, and I started with, it was a very different Clio back then. It's evolved really phenomenally over the years. We're really happy with how it works. But that enabled me to have the freedom to set up my practice completely remote so that I could track my time, send my invoices. I could put everything in the cloud. And when I started doing this in Wyoming, nobody was doing virtual offices. And since I have to comply with 2 bar association rules, like everybody does if you're in multiple jurisdictions, I had to get permission from the Wyoming bar because they didn't like this idea of people not working in an office and having a space. So I had to put together this memo on how this could work and how I can serve underprivileged communities and I can work remotely. They don't have to come into my office. They could be 100 miles away from a law firm, but I could work with them. So I sold the Wyoming bar on this idea of a virtual law office by putting together this giant memo on all the technology and how it was ethical and I wasn't going to violate any rules. And you would think in 2012 we wouldn't need to do that, but you all know law is slow to move and slow to adapt to change. They also didn't like the idea of me not being in an office where they could regulate me. They wanted that made them uncomfortable. But they got used to it. Now they love it. Now they've embraced the technology and the idea of a virtual office. But as we've grown, we've adopted more of a hybrid virtual model. If you were in this last session, which was very good, I don't know if she's still in here, virtual law firms are experiencing exponential growth, and my firm is no different. In the last 3 years, we've doubled year over year, which has meant hiring a lot of attorneys, staff, and support people to help keep up with the workload. So how do we do all this and still be able to maintain this wonderful life where we get to travel and be on the road? We've been adopting a lot of the technology that's available. We're implementing a lot of back office systems that allow all of our attorneys to work remotely. So no one has to be in the office. Me, the other staff, attorneys, no one has to be in the office. We do have one actual physical office in Loveland, Colorado. I have a staff person that comes in to help process mail. We don't get a whole lot of it because everything is in the cloud, but we do have occasionally things that come in that need to be handled. So she takes care of that. Everything gets scanned. We're completely paperless. So we've set up back office systems to be able to maintain our file databases. We've got backups of our systems. When you start operating in a virtual space so that you can have that kind of freedom and flexibility, you have to be very deliberate and design your practice, because otherwise it can get very chaotic and out of control very fast. And you have to be able to figure out how you're going to work with your clients. So let's talk about the clients for a minute. When I'm working with my clients virtually, most of the time my clients have no idea where I am. I would be willing to bet that 99% of the time when your clients call you, they don't know whether you're in the office, they don't know whether you're at home, they don't know whether you're in the car, they don't know where you are, and they really don't care. As long as you are giving them quality legal services, your clients don't care where you are. And in fact, a lot of my clients have found out, as we've gotten to know a lot of them and become friends with a lot of them, they know what we do, and they think it's so cool. They want to do it too. So sometimes I'll pick up the phone and I'll have a client say, well, where are you today? Well, today I am sitting at a picnic table, sipping a glass of wine and watching the ocean. And I'm getting your brief done. It'll be done by 5. The reality of the possibilities for remote are endless. When I've been called so many times, phone, email, Facebook messages, how do you do it? Help me learn how to do this. When I help other attorneys design their practice and help them design their life, the first question I always ask is, if you could live anywhere in the world, anywhere, where would it be? Anywhere. Because you literally could live anywhere. I have a friend who lives in Morocco. She has a fantastic law practice, and she works remotely from Morocco. Her house is on the beach. Her kids are going to an international school learning 3 languages. I have another friend who works in France. His clients are all in America, works remotely. His clients don't care. Half his clients don't even know. You can literally live and work anywhere. It doesn't matter where. This is just an example of what you can do, because not living in an RV for 6 months out of the year is not for everyone, let's face it. Now, mine is pretty nice. I like to call it my condo on wheels. It's 40 foot long. It's got 4 slide outs, kind of like a Transformers. When we set it up, it takes a lot of work. It's got a fireplace and a kitchen island. It's got 2 bedrooms. We've got 3 teenagers and 2 dogs, so we needed the biggest, baddest thing we could get, and that's what we came up with. My husband did a little bit of work in one of the spaces and took out a dresser and installed an IKEA desk for me that folds up. So I have a little desk, a little office space where I can put my computer, my notes, whatever I've got going on. But what's so nice about it is we're completely virtual. All I really need is a notepad, my computer, and I do take a little printer scanner, it's about this big, and pull it out if I need it. I hardly ever do. That's it. And I can work from anywhere. Probably like a lot of you. Who here works remotely? Who here is traveling and working remotely? Who here is traveling for fun, not work? Less. So what I'm here today is to encourage you to add a little bit of fun in your life. Take advantage of the technology, take advantage of all the tools that we have at our fingertips and at our resources available to us, and add in some of those things that you've always wanted to do, because you can. We hear a lot about folks who take a sabbatical or a month off or 2 months off so that they can go travel and have these great experiences. But the reality is, you don't really have to take that time off. You can just design your life. When we're on the road, this is how I work. If we're driving, typically I have a little lap desk, and I've got my computer that I set on my lap, and I just click away at the computer. I work while we're driving. It's great. I'm focused. I don't get car sick, so I can do that. And I get a lot done because there's no distractions. When I'm at home, I've got laundry and dishes and cooking and kids and all kinds of things that are pulling at me. When I'm at the office, I've got staff people talking to me. I've got papers I need to look at. I've got problems I need to deal with. There's constantly things pulling at me. When I hit the road, I leave all the distractions behind, and I can just focus on what matters most, and that is my family and doing the best for my clients. I can just leave those distractions aside. So if you could go anywhere, where would it be? Tell me. Someone. Yellowstone, Colorado, Bali, where else? Spain, Portugal, Jamaica. You can make that happen. You can do that. You can design your own life. You can design with intention how you're going to practice law and how you're going to spend your time. So I really today just wanted to tell you a little bit about what my day-to-day looks like, what our story is, but I know I've gotten a lot of emails already from folks saying, I've got a lot of questions, I've got this question and that question, so I want to make sure we leave time for that. But I think the main thing that I want to leave with you today is that there's so many statistics out there about attorneys who are stuck, unhappy in jobs where maybe the pay isn't what they would like it to be, maybe their coworkers aren't what they would like them to be, maybe the type of law that you set out to practice isn't what you really wanted to do from the beginning. So if you were to take a look and see, how would I design my life if I were to start over again? How I to design my law practice, how I work, how I live. Because until you can answer that question, you really aren't going to know how effectively you can implement the technology and the tools to be able to take advantage of these resources and work in these remote places. So it's not all rosy. I'll tell you a story. We were in Clearwater, Florida, and I had a trial coming up. So I practice in energy, natural resources, business, and trust and estates. I do a lot of energy litigation, a lot of big utility litigation before commissions, public utility commissions, and that type of work. I do a lot of big natural resource work related to oil and gas and water and land use, that kind of thing. Those are kind of my specialties. And so I occasionally have trials and things that I need to go back for. So sometimes I have to schedule flights back and forth if I have to be someplace. One funny story, we'd settled a case. And I thought, great, I don't have to fly back from Clearwater. I can stay the rest of the time. My family, I'm not going to have to miss out on all this fun. And I got a phone call from opposing counsel at 10 o'clock that night. So I know we settled, and I know you already filed your settlement position, but the commission isn't going to accept it, and we need you to come back so we can have you there tomorrow morning for settlement meeting with the commission and their staff. It was 10 o'clock. I had already canceled my flight because we settled. So we were scrambling. My husband found me a red eye. I had my associate up there that morning, and I made it there by 1 o'clock, and really all I had to do was sit in the room, but they needed me there. That's the not fun part of what I do and how we travel. That can be hard. And sometimes my family will have to leave without me, and I'll have to stay back and take care of an emergency or something that happens. It's just part of it. So it's not perfect, but it works for us, and it's manageable. There's times when I've had to leave early, and I have to come back. Sometimes I've even hired people from the road, and I've fired people from the road. You know, you've got to deal with those circumstances. But when I was solo, it was easy because it was just me. And I didn't have to worry about staff. I didn't have to worry about other attorneys. I didn't have to worry about, you know, what are other people working on? Are they doing what they're supposed to be doing? It was just me. As we started growing and scaling, that's been the biggest challenge for me, is to scale and still maintain this kind of lifestyle. And quite frankly, this year has been a little bit different. We've come up against some roadblocks with the scaling. When you double year over year repeatedly, there are some challenges that you have to overcome. And we outgrew our systems pretty fast. So this year I've not been able to travel as much as I would like because I've had to work with our IT people and tech people to help build some new back office systems that would allow us to have more of a remote space. So one of the tools that we've built is we utilized our Office 365 subscription, and we built a SharePoint site. And then we have 4 different practice areas that require a lot of different attention, and those clients do. So what we ended up doing is building a SharePoint site where we have each of those practice areas with their sub-practice areas separated so that attorneys are only dealing with the practice area that they need to work within. So it kind of cleans it up, makes it a little bit easier. It's given us a little bit more management of our caseload and our clients. The other tool that we use, of course, we use Clio. We also have an office share where our one of our paralegals goes to the office, but at that office share, we are able to take advantage of secretarial staff that we don't necessarily have to pay for. They're part of our office share. So we have staff that can help answer phones for us. They email us messages. They forward everything to us. We don't have a traditional phone system. Everyone in the office has issued cell phones and MacBook computers so that we can have a uniform system. Because we've been growing, we've tried to keep those systems the same, because when you have people working on different systems and you're all working remotely, it makes it very difficult to coordinate and make sure that you are all on the same page. So those have been some of the challenges that we've had to overcome. But the thing is it's all it's all overcomeable, if that's a word. You can find the tools and the resources to help you get there. The other thing that we've had to implement in order to keep maintaining this kind of freedom and flexibility is we've had to hire a contract IT person because there are inevitably folks who maybe don't know how to do something on their Mac, or maybe something in our system isn't working right. And if I'm on the road, I can't help them with that. So we've been able to implement a system where our IT person can remote into people's computers, work on them, and we're able to share that way. The other thing that's really critical when we work remotely like this is staying connected with your staff and attorneys. Because you're all spread out all over the country, it can be really difficult to take the time to connect with everybody, make sure everybody's on the same page. I love the people I work with. We have an amazing team. And it's important for me that we can all stay connected and that we can keep that good workflow moving forward. So we have implemented, Microsoft has a Teams functionality. So we do a lot of chat throughout the day. We have a chat messaging system. We also have video conferencing. And we use that throughout the day to keep connected. In our firm, we always have at least 2 people working on a case, sometimes 3, depending on the size of the project that we're working on. And so it's important that our folks can stay connected. The other thing that we've implemented is, and we've really tried to take advantage of our Office 365 subscription. We use the online platform so that we can have multiple people working in a document if we need to. Everything is automatically saved. It's all in the cloud in that system, which is really nice. We also have utilized some other technology to help us be a little more efficient with our time and our time management. So those are some of the practical aspects of how we stay together. The other thing that we've done, which has been really important for our team, is every Monday at noon, and it's noon Mountain Time. So no matter where we're at, noon Mountain Time, we have a matter meeting. We all get together and we video chat, or it's either video conference or just the voice conference through Teams. We'll get together, we talk about what's going on for the week, we talk about our weekend, and find out what everyone has going on for the week. We talk about every single client matter, we talk about our calendars, we talk about important things that are happening in the firm. We go through some very practical aspects to keep everybody on the same page. We do this every week. This has been really important for us because right now, I'm here. I've been working from here. I've got an attorney who's working in Florida right now. I have another attorney working in South Dakota. I have another attorney working from Windsor, Colorado. Got another attorney working from a ranch in Nebraska. We're all spread out all over the place. So if we can stay connected and manage our matters like that, it really helps. And then the other thing that I do is once a year, I get our team together for a firm kind of a fun get-together, I don't guess would be the best way to say it. Last year, I flew everybody out to Florida and to a campground, and everybody stayed in cabins at this campground right on the beach, and we talked about our year. We talked about our goals for the following year. We talked about what went great last year, what are we going to improve on next year. So we do some traditional things to help manage our time, manage our workflow, and keep us all together. So that's kind of the practical side of doing all of this, but the goal is to continue with the flexible lifestyle. And whatever that is, if it's traveling in our fifth wheel with our kids and our dogs, having fun, whether that is, camped out in a nice cozy office at home where I don't have to go out of my pajamas, I can just sit and get my work done all day. It doesn't matter. It's whatever you want to do. So I wanted to keep some time for questions because I know there's going to be some. So I think they're going to bring some microphones up. So I hope that gave you a little bit of an idea of what it takes to put together a practice that can be completely flexible and remote.
Hi, my name is Dustin, and I also have a virtual law office. I was wondering what you do about internet. Do you just use your hotspot? And then if you have problem areas with the internet, how do you deal with that or handle that?
Internet is sometimes a challenge because you can see from the pictures, we don't always go to high populated areas. I actually have two hotspots. I have a Verizon hotspot and an AT&T hotspot because some places AT&T works great and some places Verizon works great. So I actually work off of that hotspot. And as you probably know, Clio uses a lot of data, and so you've got to be able to run that system. The other thing that has been a challenge for us is sometimes I don't have good cell phone signal. After the hurricane hit South Florida, the Keys, a couple years ago, took out a bunch of the cell phone towers. So the campground that we usually go stay at in the winter had great signal one year. After the hurricane, no signal. So I was able to turn on my Wi-Fi calling and call through my hotspot because my hotspot worked, but my cell phone didn't for some reason. So I get really creative, and sometimes when I'm in a spotty area and I can't get cell phone signal, then I will schedule my phone calls around a time where I know I'm gonna be maybe closer to a good cell phone place. So that can be challenging, but kind of the rule of thumb we've always gone by when we travel is we have to have some reception so we can run the hotspot. Because if we can't run the hotspot, I can't run my business. Because not only am I working from client materials and client work, I also have a whole team that relies on me to help manage the business side. So I've got to be available. That was a good question.
Hi. Is this on? Oh, hello. I'm Carla Miller, and I practice family law in Nashville, Tennessee, and I've fantasized many years about what's happening on that screen right there. And so you're my new hero. Thank you. But I do, and I say I fantasize. My husband and I, he's sitting right here, we like to travel a lot. We're both pretty high-tech. I call myself a high-tech redneck because I'm originally from Alabama, and now I live in Tennessee. But my question to you is, my struggle even in town in my office, which I am primarily office-based, is to maintain that billable hour quota. I'm a billable hours firm. So my question to you is, without getting too nosy, are you a billable hours practice, primarily flat fee or contingent, and how do you manage whichever those are?
Yeah, so we are primarily a billable hour firm. So that's probably been one of the more interesting challenges as we've scaled. We've got 2 associates, and we've got several contract attorneys that work with us. Trying to figure out how to manage that remotely and making sure that everybody is getting their work done and that we're getting those billable hours in, because let's just face it, when you're a billable hour firm, I mean, if you don't bill, you don't have any, you're not meeting your budget, you don't have profits, there's nothing. So I've come up with, really mostly through trial and error, some ways to kind of manage that. And one of that is, with our associates, either myself or I've actually hired another attorney who's kind of helping to manage associates in caseload now because we're growing so fast that I can't do it all anymore. I was just working nonstop. But one of the things that's helped is hiring an attorney just to help manage the caseload with the associates. We don't typically have this issue with the contract attorneys because contract attorneys are just that. They're contract. So they're working on projects, they're working on, it's a different structure, it's a different pay structure. But when you're dealing with salaried associates or salaries, you've got to figure out a way to manage, okay, are they really working today or are they out playing? Did they just clock in and say they're in, but are they really in? You have that kind of one, that's going through the back of your head always. So I've come up with some methods to kind of help work with the associates to learn to bill certain amounts of time every day because we have the work. The work isn't issue. It's learning the discipline to get the billable hours in when you work remotely. So what I've done is I've come up with some minimum billable requirements, and then if they meet that, then they get a bonus over that. And that has seemed to work really well. And they seem to like it because they can get a bonus. And it's, but it also helps me to kind of gauge and manage. And I'm not a really big fan of billable hour requirements personally. I mean, we're a very non-traditional firm, so using a traditional method like billable hour requirements feels really counterproductive. But there are certain things that you have to do when you work remote to help manage the time. Otherwise, you have no way of knowing if your attorneys are doing what they need to do. So that's the challenge.
We have time for one more question.
I think there's a question here.
In the back.
Okay. Hi. Thank you for your presentation. My name is Jennifer Grady, and I practice employment and immigration law in Beverly Hills. So I have two quick questions. One would be in terms of printing and mailing. So I have some packets that are 500 pages, have to FedEx that. How do you do that? Mm-hmm. And second question would be, what do you do for your children in terms of sports, school, all of that?
That's probably one of the funnest parts of all of this. Okay. We homeschooled our kids, because how else are you going to travel? The schools will not let you take them out for a month. So I tried. I read the policy, and it says no. So we started homeschooling our kids when I graduated from law school. I graduated in December of 2011, and we pulled our kids out immediately because we knew that this was the path and the plan. And they had been in traditional school settings prior to that, so we were a little bit nervous how we were going to manage that, especially with me just starting a brand new law firm. But my husband and I tag teamed a lot of the schooling and made that work. And after the first year and the first trips on the RV, the kids didn't want to go back. So, because who would want to when you can spend a month in the Keys on your kayaks and swimming and playing in December when there's 3 feet of snow at home? And, there's so many things. And on the sports side, it actually worked out really well because our 2 older kids got into BMX, bicycle motocross, shortly after I started my practice. And it's more of an individual sport, and there's a lot of traveling involved. So a lot of our travels were chasing those races all over the country. And in 2014, my then 14-year-old daughter made it to Worlds and was on Team USA. So we got to spend a month in South Carolina at Worlds. I mean, she would never have had that experience had we not done this. My son, that same year, spent a bunch of time in Tulsa at Grand Nationals and was 8th in the country in his class. So, they've had amazing experiences, and now they race more downhill. We just had a year of recovery. My son broke both arms and elbow, and nice little crash at Angel Fire, New Mexico. But it's part of it. It gives them an opportunity to do things that they would have never experienced. And now we've homeschooled them throughout, and the 2 older kids started college as juniors. So they will graduate this year with over 20 credit hours of college. They're running circles around all the other kids in college and getting A's, and they're going to start traditional university next fall, which is going to be really rough on me. That's a good question.
Great. Thank you so much for your session, Crystal.
Thank you.
Very inspiring.